We'll be starting this morning in Acts chapter 8. Acts chapter 8 and verse 26. Acts chapter 8 and verse 26. It says, And the angel of the Lord spake unto Philip, saying, Arise, and go toward the south, unto the way that goeth down from Jerusalem unto Gaza, which is desert. And he arose and went, and behold, a man of Ethiopia, that's a country in northern Africa, an eunuch of great authority under Candace, queen of the Ethiopians, who had the charge of all her treasure, and had come to Jerusalem for to worship, was, was returning and sitting in his chariot, read Isaiah the prophet. Um, Off the bat, somebody would look at him and assume this man's a Christian. I mean, Jerusalem was a really long hike from Ethiopia. He did a lot to go and worship, and you would imagine him to be godly and be Christian. But as we know the rest of this passage, just because he was religious didn't mean he was saved. We can see that also count in Acts chapter 28. Not 28, 26. Acts chapter 26 and verse 1. Then Agrippa said unto Paul, Thou art permitted to speak for thyself. Then Paul stretched forth the hand and answered for himself. I think myself happy, King Agrippa, because I shall answer for myself this day before thee touching all the things thereof, or whereof I am accused of the Jews, especially because I know thee to be expert in all the customs and questions which are among the Jews. Wherefore I beseech thee to hear me patiently. My manner of life from my youth, which was at the first among mine own nation at Jerusalem, know all the Jews, which knew me from the beginning, if they would testify that after the most straightest sect of our religion I lived Pharisee. So we see here you can be incredibly religious as Paul was, and not even just be lost, but be doing the wrong thing. Because religion doesn't mean what I thought it meant when I went to look it up. Religion just means a ceremonial observance. I was thinking about that this morning, a ceremonial observance. I've made a religion out of a lot of things. Opening day of deer season, I have the same things I do every time. I've all but made a religion out of that. Thanksgiving, I always do the same thing at Thanksgiving. I've made a ceremonial observance. It does not mean what I thought. I thought it would mean to be godly, holy, or to be good, or even to be liked, often as we put the meaning to it. And then I realized lost people aren't the only ones confuse religion for godliness, truth to God, and general right and wrong. I do it a lot. Many times I find myself doing things out of religion rather than conviction. Even though it's right, why do I pray before my meals? Am I really convicted on that, or have I just always done it? Am I convicted, or let's get back. Even if things are good and right, we still might not be doing them for the right reasons. I need to do these for the right reasons. I need to pay attention to that. Do I come to church because of religion? My whole life, my church has always been the church I've gone to with my parents, and I've always had to ride to church, and it wasn't optional. For the first time in my life, I've had some more freedom. Do I come because I've always come, or do I come because I have convictions? These are things I need to seriously consider, and all of us do. Do I read my Bible because of conviction or religion? Do I just read it at church and everybody else opens and the preacher says to turn to this verse? Or do I go to my bedroom at night and do I open it and I read it like I should? And I'll admit right now I don't. We'll look at a difference of having conviction behind your religion if we'll turn to Luke chapter 22, or I skipped ahead again. Turn to Luke chapter 22, see one more example of just religion. Luke chapter 22 and verse 31. And the Lord said, Simon, Simon, behold, Satan hath desired to have you, that he may sift you as wheat. But I have prayed for thee that thy faith fail not, and when thou art converted, strengthen thy brethren. And he said unto him, Lord, I am ready to go with thee, both into prison and to death. That's a mouthful. As of right now, I've never been faced with a whole lot of persecution. I can say that pretty easy. I'll be shot before I'll deny Christ, but I've never been in the position to actually prove it. Verse 34, and he said, I tell thee, Peter, the cock shall not crow this day before thou shalt not thrice deny that thou knowest me. Now we all know this passage, so we'll just skip ahead to verse 54 of the same chapter, Luke chapter 22 and verse 54. Then took they him and led him, and brought him into the high priest's house, and Peter followed afar off. And when they had kindled fire in the midst of the hall, they were set down together. Peter sat down among them. But a certain maid beheld him as he sat by the fire, and earnestly looked upon him, and said, This man was also with him. And he denied him, saying, Woman, I know him not. And after a little while another saw him, and said, Thou art also of them. And Peter said, Man, I am not. And about the space of 1 hour after another confidently affirmed, saying, Of a truth, this fellow was also with him, for he is a Galilean. And Peter said, Man, I know not what thou sayest. And immediately, while he yet spake, the cock crew. And the Lord turned and looked upon Peter, and Peter remembered the word of the Lord, how he had said unto him, Before the cock crow, thou shalt deny me thrice. And Peter went out and wept bitterly. Peter had a lot of religion to say what he did, but he didn't have the convictions behind it, because when it came up to be tested, he gave in. Now we'll turn to Daniel chapter 6. Daniel chapter 6, and verse 1. I know I bring a lot from Daniel. It's probably my favorite book of the Bible, but the convictions behind Daniel and Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego are impressive. We'll start in verse 1. It pleased Darius to set over the kingdom 120 princes, which should be over the whole kingdom, and over these presidents, of whom Daniel was first, that the princes might give account unto them, and the king should have no damage. Then this Daniel was preferred above the presidents and princes, because an excellent spirit was in him, and the king thought to set him over the whole realm. Then the presidents and princes sought to find occasion against Daniel concerning the kingdom, but they could find none occasion for fault, forasmuch as he was faithful, neither was there any error nor fault found in him. I'm going to stop right there for a second. What an impressive testimony. That everybody knows the only way to trip you up is by making you worship your God. I wish that could be said of me. It's not. People can find ways to trip me up and to get me other than making me worship my God. And that's another thing. When there are true convictions, you see a testimony to back it, as Daniel had. We'll continue in verse 5. Then said these men, We shall not find any occasion against this Daniel, except we find against him concerning the law of his God. Then these presidents and princes assembled together to the king, and said thus unto him, King Darius, live forever. All the presidencies of the kingdom, and governors and princes, the counselors and the captains, have consulted together to establish a royal statute, and to make a firm decree, that whosoever shall ask a petition of any god or man for 30 days, save of thee, O king, he shall be cast into the den of lions. Now, O king, establish a decree and sign the writing, that it be not changed according to the law of the Medes and Persians, which altereth not. At that time, even the king could not change Mede or Persian law. Once he signed it, it was as good as it would be. I lost my place. Verse 9. Wherefore King Darius signed the writing in the decree. Now when Daniel knew that the writing was signed, he went into his house, and his windows being open in his chamber toward Jerusalem, he kneeled upon his knees 3 times a day, and prayed and gave thanks before his God, as he did aforetime. Now that is conviction. He was religious enough to pray when there was nobody watching and there was no law against it, but then when it was illegal, he still did it. And he didn't hide it either. He still did it the same way. He had always worshiped the Lord. And I've never seen the Bible that says you have to pray 3 times a day, but that was Daniel's personal convictions, and he did it. Our convictions, the Bible isn't the maximum. The Bible gives us laws and rules, and that's the minimum. We are to perform all of those, and then we're just still unprofitable servants. Verse 11. Then these men assembled and found Daniel praying and making supplication before his God. Then they came near and spake before the king concerning the king's decree. Hast thou not signed a decree that every man thou shalt ask a petition of any god or man within 30 days, save of thee, O king, shall be cast into the den of lions? The king answered and said, The thing is true, according to the law of the Medes and Persians, which altereth not. Then answered they and said before the king that Daniel, which is of the children of the captivity of Judah, regardeth not thee, O king, nor the decree that thou hast signed, but maketh this petition 3 times a day. Then the king, when he learned these words, was sore displeased with himself, and set his heart on Daniel to deliver him. And he labored till the going down of the sun to deliver him. Then these men assembled unto the king, and said unto the king, Know, O king, that the law of the Medes and Persians is, that no decree nor statute which the king establisheth may be changed. Then the king commanded, and they brought Daniel, and cast him into the den of lions. Now the king spake and said unto Daniel, Thy God, whom thou servest continually, he will deliver thee. And a stone was brought and laid upon the mouth of the den, and the king sealed it with his own signet, and with the signet of his lords, that the purpose might not be changed concerning Daniel. Now we know the end of this account. I'm not going to go in and explain how the Lord shut the mouths of the lions. But Daniel was convicted enough that he followed it all the way to the lion's den. And then I have a lot of examples. I don't know if we'll read them all. Let's turn to Daniel chapter 3. Another one of my favorites. Daniel chapter 3 and verse 9. Now we know that Nebuchadnezzar had made an altar here of gold that everyone was to worship. So I'm not going to read all that part. But in verse 9 it says, They spake and said to the king Nebuchadnezzar, O king, live forever. Thou, O king, hast made a decree that every man that shall hear the sound of the cornet, flute, harp, sackbut, psaltery, and dulcimer, and all kinds of music, shall fall down and worship the golden image. And whoso falleth not down and worshipeth, that he should be cast into the midst of the burning fiery furnace. There are certain Jews who thou hast set over the affairs of the province of Babylon, Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. These men, O king, have not regarded thee. They serve not thy gods, nor worship the golden image which thou hast set up. Another testimony behind conviction we see. They knew that these men didn't regard the king the way they regarded their God. In verse 13. Then Nebuchadnezzar in his rage and fury commanded to bring Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. Then they brought these men before the king. Nebuchadnezzar spake and said unto them, Is it true, O Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego? Do not ye serve my gods, nor worship the golden image which I have set up? Now if ye be ready, that at what time ye hear the sound of the cornet, flute, harp, sackbut, psaltery, and the dulcimer, and all kinds of music, ye fall down and worship the image which I have made, well. But if ye worship not, ye shall be cast the same hour into the midst of a burning fiery furnace. And who is that God that shall deliver you out of my hands? Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego answered and said to the king, O Nebuchadnezzar, we are not careful to answer thee in this matter. If it be so, our God, whom we serve, is able to deliver us from the burning fiery furnace, and he will deliver us out of thine hand, O king. But if not, be it known thee, O king, that we will not serve thy gods, nor worship